Hey everyone, Mr. Happy here, and in this video we're going to be watching the 5.1 trailer for Final Fantasy XIV and then going back and breaking it down. It's pretty straightforward and easy to understand, but there were a few tidbits that confused people, especially one involving Thornton. But it was also a really hyped trailer. So we're going to watch the English version, which I haven't watched yet, and then we're going to go back, we're going to mute it, we're going to pause through and see if there's any little things we can notice. And if I don't notice things, then be sure to point it out in the YouTube comment section. I'm going to mute my mic, and we are going to watch the trailer first and foremost.
On the far shore of the source, there stands a great palace built by the elves. It was forsaken in the wake of the flood, but a certain new Mage chose to make their home there soon after. It is said that none in all of Norvrand is more knowledgeable than they on matters of the soul. Everything we told you, of the source, the shards, the 7 umbral calamities, all of it is true. Were it not for their heroism, the skies over Norvrand would still be awash with light, the realm yet at the mercy of 4-3 and the Sin Eaters.
Must accept the reality of our circumstances. We must move forward.
Instead of saving your friends, you risk damning them. Are you sure you're willing to take that chance?
Given your expertise, you must surely have noted the peculiar nature of their swords.
Still not sure what I think of this gift of yours.
I would not soon throw my life away. Not after the lengths you and yours went to save it.
All right, that shook my head up a little bit. That's a great trailer. The use of the theme we heard during the live letter last time from the Nier raid, and the Alexander end there, which is not even half of what we learned about it from the live letter, although it's actually probably about half. It was an incredible trailer. Whether or not, even as someone who's like not super engrossed in Nier Automata, it was a beauty to behold, and a great way to usher in our first major patch in 5.1. But there are some things that we need to individually take a peek at when it comes to the trailer. So first and foremost, the copied factory. This is actually, this exact scene right here is very reminiscent of the actual art that we had to look at when it was initially unveiled a long time ago at this point. Several months, not quite a year, but it's been quite some time. I also really I really have to approve of the Nier style like trailer kind of thing they have going on here at both the beginning and the end. It's quite wonderful in my opinion. And if they ever do anything, I kind of just hope that even when they're sticking more to like 14 related themes, that they kind of consider doing stuff like this in the future. I definitely, if they're trying to use these trailers more for hype building, it definitely feels like more the, I guess, correct decision. I'm gonna set the playback speed a little bit slower, just in case there's any specific detail that we want to go about and grab. Oh, but man, this was so good. I was trying to use the keyboard keys to just like skip through, and it wouldn't let me for some reason. No, you can skip frame by frame on the keyboard, and for some reason it wouldn't let me. So obviously we get our look at 2P, not 2B. It's an alternate skin from Soul Calibur, who Yoko Taro just really wants to give a little bit more life. Now, I'm sure people are wondering if we're going to be getting that gear. And during the live letter, they mentioned that what we're looking for as rewards we'll probably find. And as such, I imagine I'll be seeing a lot of Viera 2P and 2B lookalikes. We do also get to see the bot in the back. Now, this doesn't look to be just like a cutscene. This looks to be something that's pulled out of the actual boss fight. I don't know if that's the final boss, but I'm willing to take the guess that it's almost like an Alexander model that's been reworked to work as the final boss of the copied factory. I'd assume this is actually the final boss and not like the first or second or third boss. But I wanted to think that the factory that we see later in the trailer, the deeper part of the factory, was the final boss, but maybe it's this. Either way, I don't think I'm going to be disappointed. Now, we got a lot of lore tidbits, and we'll be talking about this on State of the Realm here. Now, we knew a little bit about the Grand Cosmos as a location built by the elves on the far shore of the Source, which is the lake in Lakeland. Say I won't make that mistake twice. But Grahatia seems to know a lot about it. Grahatia drops some pretty serious lore bombs, and it's the knowledge it seems like he has is just kind of expanded more. And I'm curious how much he's kept from us, and if he's kept a lot more from us than we maybe initially anticipated. But we're essentially going there because a Numo has called it his home, and since there's so much knowledge about the soul locked away in the Grand Cosmos, we even get to see some very eerie scenes in there. We're going there to try and probably understand, what's going on. Why didn't they return to the Source? Why is Grahatia here? Is there anything they can do for those who are lost? There's a lot of things that could potentially come out of looking for this kind of information, especially if we're still trying to figure out if we are made up of as many different souls as we possibly suspect that we are. But our boy here, Grahatia, we also noticed that the Crystal Exarch is joining as a trust here. He was an available trust in some of the dungeons throughout the main scenario in 5.0, but after the main scenario was done, he was no longer available as a trust. I hope they don't make that mistake again. I understand why it's maybe a thing, the further he is from the Crystal Tower, the weaker he is, but trusts aren't the actual character after the first time around. So I don't really think that as much as an excuse. I hope he becomes a permanently accessible trust. We already know he has a moveset. He was flexible between all three roles before. So seeing him here in the Grand Cosmos is something that gives me a little bit of hope on that front. Other than that, we see some generic ads. We see the first boss laying down. We can see some of those I forget what they're called, the things that grow out of the pots that make the rolly sound as ads in here. You can see a few AoEs around the arena. We see the Odin on Sleipnir model being reused for what looks to be an ad, considering the way the hallway is designed. Maybe it's a boss, I don't know. We have the grand ballroom where the souls of all the elves that were there are just kind of chilling. We also get this little dark scene, which looks to be part of the Pixie Beast Tribe quest. Now, I know the Pixie Beast Tribe quest is going to have this sort of fantasy playground area, and I'm wondering if this is like the early machinations of it before it's been filled with any thoughts. But I'm actually really curious what that's going to be about, because we know we have the Porksy Mount. We know we have a playground now. There's not I can't really draw a whole lot more from this. Just chilling in here. It's not in the castle. There's neither of those pixies or Feo Ul. And so, I don't really know what more to draw from this other than darkness? We also have a quick peek of Ishgard. Obviously, we're going to be restoring it this patch. That's just like a little view from the floor of the firmament. And then seeing him genuinely frightens me because the last time we came anywhere near this kid, things didn't go so great for the people involved. So I've got my eyes on this one. Now, I'm actually curious maybe if part of our trip to the Grand Cosmos has something to do with him, because he actually opens his mouth and says a few words there, and they're fairly telling. But I'm genuinely frightened already. Just seeing him brings back memories of things that make me fearful. We'll have to do a deeper dive into that with Ethos on State of the Realm. And then we get to see this gate. Now, this looks to be something with the pixies again, if I had to make a guess, because the environment in the back very much reminds me of the kind of unfilled land that was present in the pixie playground that we saw. You can see these doors that are shrouded by darkness, similar darkness to the one we saw in the Pixie Quest, and they seem to be cleansing it of said he opens his words, opens his mouth with words. See, I can't words this morning. I haven't had my coffee yet. And then we got a very extended peek at the EX version of the final encounter in Shadowbringers, the Dying Gasp Extreme, which we know I think it's called Emmett's Elegy, I think is what the official name was. And yeah, we know this fight's going to be really long, and you can kind of tell already. You can see he uses a tank buster in the middle of the group because the tank's a noob and doesn't want to turn around. You can see, you got the machinist firing off right there. We also have this phase of all the masks. There's meteors falling. There's tethers being targeted at people. Whole bunch of chaos going on in here. I'd assume that those tethers are just line AoEs you need to face away while other people do the meteors. That would be my first sort of inclination. And also people need to stand under the meteors in order to intercept them. You can see the meteors falling from the ceiling. You can see, they're actually tethering. It looked like he was tethering to the meteor location. Yeah, actually, it looks like they're tethering to the meteor locations and casting it there. And you can see a player standing under the one on the left. You get the best view of it right here on the left, right there. You see it? It looks like there's a player standing in circle with the meteor. So it looks like they're just channeling that. So I wonder if there's any other aspect to that part that's going on right there. Then we go over to here where there's just one central Ascian that's kind of just drawing the attention. Looks like he does some room-wide damage and then a bunch of donut AoEs after the fact. So you can see there's 4 of the donut AoEs, which they all try to stack properly. We get into this part again where he does a room-wide AoE. Nothing special to really say about that. Waiting for the next part. It's a very long animation. We have the circles that fall from the ceiling again. These you need to stay away from, and there will of course be other mechanics going on at the same time here. You also see that was just one of the ones exploding from the center. So you can see as they land, they do the explosions. This is exactly like normal mode, so it's going to be just making sure you avoid those while probably doing other mechanics at the same time. So we can assume that this entirety of the first phase has been fleshed out pretty substantially, and that most of the things we saw deal with the first phase that we had in normal mode. We then, of course, have the transition. Based on their comments on the length of the encounter, I highly assume that there will be a checkpoint in the extreme version of Hades. But one of the big things that people took away from is this part right here. Now, from the normal mode, when we unleashed our light, it was towards the end when we were trying to combat a QTE followed by the Black Cauldron, where that was like the final DPS race of the encounter. This doesn't seem to entirely be related to that. This might be another QTE that's somewhat similar, but doesn't necessarily end the same way, because now we have this giant view of us overlooking, basically the Amarot in a sense, that I don't remember such drastic scenery in the fight. I just remember being surrounded by darkness. So we may be seeing some brand new things. There's another scene from a little bit later that makes me think something similar as well. But we're probably looking at a fairly fleshed out fight. They said it's probably going to be similar to Shinryu EX in terms of difficulty and not the original Thornton. But that being said, Shinryu was an okay difficulty with some parts of the fight I didn't super enjoy. So if they can make me enjoy the Hades fight a little bit more, then I'll probably be more okay with what we end up with. Now, on top of that, we do have a little bit more of the story segment. It looks like Yulmore are trying to deal with what it's done, and what they kind of did when they were under the influence of Lothring. And on top of that, we have some of the automatons that it looks like we worked on, or that have been, the technology, the Talos, a lot of Talos technology coming back to, bite Yulmore in the butt. So we can't really divulge too much from that, or we can't really determine too much from that, other than Talos are coming and the Yulmorans are defending. That's it. We don't know if they've been turned by some other force, or if the technology was like he's trying to relearn the technology unsuccessfully, and it's leading to problems. If the souls inside of them essentially maybe are feeling a little bit revengeful in a sense. So there's a lot of things that you can pull from seeing the Talos coming to. It could also be a red herring with the editing, but I have a feeling that editing is fairly on point. We see the Chais kind of standing up for, accepting who we are, what we did, which is, good to see. He's got his cojones back. Then we have 2P whispering something. I mean, they probably won't be voice acted, so we probably won't have much to figure out from that. And then we just get, I think we have our Lady Chai. I always forget her name. She's speaking to us kind of about morals right now, which is kind of weird in the trailer. She's not one of the people I trust at that, even if she was under Vothri's influence. But you know what? Maybe she's maybe she's onto something with some of the lines that she utters here. Yeah, Dulia, that's the one, Dulia Chai. And then we get just more previews with the awesome music from the Nier Automata raid, some more shots of it. We got a tank. Literally a giant tank firing a laser. We also got a shot of, that was really cool. Let's get a PvP shot here. This is the new PvP mode, the Ansal Hakar. Also just the Nadam, basically the second Seal Rock. The Malboro mount that we see on the right, we're suspecting is part of a Blue Mage achievement. And then there are two other mounts. We see the Porksy, which we know is from the Beast Tribe. I think that's one of the existing frontline mounts on the bottom. And then that's one of the other PvP mounts, the Gorilla in the back. So I think that's what we have for the origin of the four maps that we're seeing on the screen right here. I also just really love the environment. I know it's very wide open. I enjoy the calm land style atmosphere of this area, just like I did with the original Azim Steppe. So I just enjoy this openness that is being projected here. So I'm just a big fan of the aesthetic of this very open area. You can also see in the distance some of the other parts. And we have some more, I'd assume this is another boss as well. He's just growing all sorts of different lengths, his arms, his legs, he's disconnecting, reattaching, dropping AoEs that should seem very familiar to anyone who's played Nier Automata before. Lots of AoEs dropping by. Now, this scene right here confused the hell out of people, but if you slow it down, this is not Thordan Ultimate, this is not a new Thordan encounter, this is Blue Mages doing Thordan. We know Blue Mage Log is going to be adding reasons for people to do 8 Blue Mage parties, with it being synced, and yeah, all that. Just basically 8 Blue Mage, proper, no echo, no sync, or no unsynced parties, and all of them using Diamondback in a line is actually the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. So that's all this is. It's just teasing the Blue Mage Log and nothing else. There's not going to be any other Thordan related content going into the patch, but that looked really, really cool. We also get what looks to be a scene that's in the is following what happened at the very end of 5.0. I'd assume that some mobilization is taking place after a certain event took place. Kryl, we know she has a lot of connections to the Echo and the Soul and all that, but a lot of pondering here. I'm sure there's all sorts of things being they're trying to figure out to get all of the Scions back home. We get our boy here, of course, who's he's ready to fight after what just happened. I have no doubt about that. In fact, he just did, because he just fired off all the shots in his Garlean issued Gunblade. Then we have her hopping into the mount from the flying sections, which I wonder if we'll get much involved with the flying sections of the Nier Automata raid. Like if we'll have any sort of sections that are reminiscent of that at any point. Then we have what I thought originally was the last boss. I think the giant robot at the beginning, again, might be the last boss instead. But this boss looked really cool. Also, you get a nice look at 2P joining us for the fight as she dodges that right there by splitting into two. That was cool. This looks like it's going to be chaos, 3 different alliances, all different things happening. The arms are rotating around the factory. The boss is the thing actually in the center. You get to see her doing a little flying segment right here. We don't know the relevance of it. It's probably just like the cutscene leading into the final boss, considering what's in the distance in the back right there. But yeah, just leaving that. Then we go back to Hades. Now, this was what I thought. After all that, they went back to more footage of Hades. And you can see the arena covered entirely in light. But Hades is like reaching his arm out of this, like, he's like re-evolving in a sense. He's just like he's exploding with darkness again. I don't know if that was just the transition and I don't remember it properly, but they're still covered in light. You can still see the Amarot in the background. So I'm wondering if that has any increased relevance in the extreme encounter. Like, we see so much of the channeling of the inner light. I just wonder if it's an extended animation, a cutscene. I don't know. We'll have to find out. They look different from the first and the second time it happened, but the relevance is lost to me. Now, that is something that is very important. That is Estinian facing down versus what looks to be a recreation of the Ultima weapon. Now, it would not surprise me at all to learn that the Garleans, after they suffered a defeat and lost the power of Ultima, if there was still some degree of power that was left behind. You know, Ultima was, we've speculated and learned a lot about Ultima and Ultima weapon and their connections to one another. And it's possible that another power source similar to the Heart of Sabik might be used to help recreate Ultima in some capacity, in some degree. There's definitely some question marks on that. We also get to see him. It looks like he's trying to use Life of the Dragon into Stardiver to finish this real quick. Because he's actually in what looks to be like a boss arena, too. It's a giant square in the middle of 2 hallways. You know, it's exactly what we're used to the whole time. And then we just have Grahatia here, who seems to be hinting he knows a lot more than we thought he knew. But this is, of course, a big cutaway right here. This looks to be pretty much immediately after the scene that we saw at 5.0. We can still see the bodies in the back. He still has the blood on his face. But now he's just completely covered in darkness. Now, it's hard to believe that he's just channeled darkness this quickly after what just happened, unless Elidibus has worked very, very quickly. And even that being said, this could also just be him kind of digging into his resonant and seeing like what exactly, because he keeps learning he's capable of new things because of his artificial echo. And he is not messing around. We fully expect a showdown with him in 5.3, but in a more grandiose way than even the last time that we encountered him. So there's a lot of question marks here, but this does seem to take place almost immediately after the scenes we just saw. Either way. Also, maybe it was just my video player, but it almost showed like a graininess that reminds me of the Echo in a sense for a second there. I think it was just the YouTube video because it's playing at the 1/4 speed. Now, a lot of people have pointed out that this looks to be 2P facing off against none other than 9S. That seems to be the working theory with this part right here. And we do expect Yoko Taro to be the madman that he is and actually tie in the raid to the actual canon of Nier Automata. There's some great theories going around about how that could actually happen, and it's actually pretty easy to explain, which makes us feel like that's too easy to explain, so maybe it's not that way. But then if we think it's not that way, then it is that way, and then we should have just thought that way the whole time, but then it was too easy, so we just don't think about that. Okay. So, yeah. That's, I don't know what I just said, but that was the end of the trailer. Well, it was the end. Then we get to the Alexander part at the actual end. And this was the ultimate we were all suspecting. But there's a lot to pull away from that, because not only is Alexander here, he immediately goes into his wing phase, which we know this is the opening scene for Alexander Ultimate. He's joined by Brute Justice and Cruise Chaser. When we got to see the extended opening here, Brute Justice jumped off of the back of Cruise Chaser, and then all 3 of them time warped away and Living Liquid popped out. I'll use Yoshi P's quote. They said for Alexander Ultimate, they used everything. So I suspect that the epic of Alexander is going to be quite the adventure. And that was a hype thing. So overall, this is one of my favorite patch trailers. It's still not quite as hype to me as the 4.4 trailer, but it's a beautiful marriage of the Nier Automata elements, as well as some of the things we're more excited for going into this patch. And I can't wait for October 29th, as well as 2 weeks later after that, as well as 5.15 for all the stuff that's going to be coming over the next several weeks and months. But with that, that's my overview on the patch 5.1 trailer. Let me know what you thought of it in the YouTube comment section. Twitch, I'm sure we'll be talking about it all day. I got to go get some coffee before we talk about it, though. So thanks, everyone, for watching. I'll see all of you in the next video. And until then, take care.